Well, I want to focus now on the crackdown on dissent in Hong Kong. You'll remember these images of huge protests back in 2019, which began to oppose an extradition law, but quickly widened in focus. Demonstrators back then vowed to fight to the death for democracy, only for China to introduce its controversial national security law, which has since been used to target activists and opposition politicians. Just over a week ago, a group of them, dubbed the Hong Kong 47, being jailed for subversion. And this man, Jimmy Lai, founder of pro-democracy newspaper Apple News, is now on trial and could face a life sentence. Well, I've been speaking to his son. Sebastian, thank you so much for joining us here on the programme. I spoke to your father before he was arrested, and he was defiant then. And I imagine, knowing the character of your father, he remains defiant now, regardless of what he's going through.
Thank you very much for having me. Yes, you're right. I mean, they've since you spoke to him, they've put him in solitary confinement in a maximum security prison for 4 years now. He doesn't get access to natural light. He's very religious, he's Catholic, and they've denied him the Eucharist as well. All of that is aimed to break him. And unfortunately, his health has gone much worse. He's 77, he's got diabetes, so he's much more frail than he used to even 5 years ago. But we've seen, when he gave testimony this week, that his mind's still sharp and his spirit is so strong. He is unbroken.
He truly is. And despite being in the solitary confinement, as you say, he's a 77-year-old man, he has also become the symbol of China's crackdown in Hong Kong. I mean, when we think about what's happened over the course of the last few years, and then since his arrest, he very much symbolises Hong Kong's own story.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story where he arrived there as a 12-year-old, as a stowaway, and Hong Kong is a city of refugees that thrived on the freedoms that were put in place by the United Kingdom, and self-made man. But then after Tiananmen Square, he realised that the additional money didn't matter. In the end of the day, he had resources and he had time, and he could spend it defending the freedoms of Hong Kong. So he started a newspaper with the idea that the people of Hong Kong, once the handover happened, would need a source of news that didn't pander to the powerful, didn't suck up to the government, and didn't bend the knee to organise crime and try it. So that's what him and his staff did for the next 30 years. He believed that with information, you had choice, and with choice, you had freedom, and they championed that, even though it wasn't an easy road to walk. You know, I still remember as a kid, our house getting firebombed, people always following Dad everywhere. But they did it, and as he said, it was exhilarating because for him it was giving freedom to the people of Hong Kong. And then the national security law came down, and with that, what is currently happening in Hong Kong, the fall, so to speak, and. Everybody told him to leave, said that, you're 73, he was 73 at that point, you're a better campaigner abroad, that you're one of the main targets. And I'm sure it wasn't an easy decision, but he knew that if he left, he'd be leaving his people behind, he'd be leaving his journalists behind, and they'll be open to be targeted by the Hong Kong government.
But now he potentially faces life in prison. Do you think he has moments of regret?
So I still remember when he was first arrested in August in 2020, and then he was let out. And he was asked in an interview, whether you regret, like knowing that it was the last 30 years would have come to this, would have come to you being arrested and maybe never seeing the light of day again. Do you regret what you have done? And my father pauses for a second and says, I was lying on the prison floor when they put you in detention, on the detention cell, and they give you this very thin blanket, so I couldn't sleep all night, and I had a lot of time to think. And I've looked back in the last 30 years, if I would have changed anything. And then he turns around and smiles and says, I wouldn't have changed a damn thing. There's a cost to doing what is right. And my father knows that he's doing the right thing, and the cost is the cost.